The Galactic Council had made their decision with cold efficiency. Terra 7 would be humanity's new home, a Class 0 Deathworld that had claimed the lives of 3 previous colonization attempts. The reptilian Vextari had lasted 6 months before their entire expedition vanished. The crystalline Korth managed 8 months before communication ceased entirely. The insectoid hive mind collective had endured nearly a year before their neural network went silent. Now it was humanity's turn. Ambassador Veltaran of the Hegemony watched from the observation deck as the human transport ships descended toward the planet's surface. The world below churned with perpetual storms, its continents scarred by volcanic activity and seismic upheavals. Gravity pulled at twice the galactic standard, and the atmosphere contained trace amounts of compounds that would prove toxic to most known species. "They will not survive 2 months," Veltaran muttered to his aide, a spindly creature named Thix. "Perhaps less." The humans had been remarkably calm during the briefing. Captain Martinez had simply nodded when informed of the previous failures, asking only about geological surveys and weather patterns. The scientific team, led by Dr. Kim, had shown more interest in the planet's unique ecosystem than its dangers. Even the military contingent, commanded by Colonel Brooks, had seemed almost enthusiastic about the challenge. Veltaran had expected panic, protests, or at least some form of diplomatic negotiation. Instead, the humans had begun immediate preparations for departure. The first month proceeded exactly as the Council had predicted. The initial reports spoke of constant equipment failures, injuries from the hostile environment, and the typical struggles of establishing a foothold on an untamed world. Several human structures had been damaged by the planet's frequent seismic activity, and 3 colonists had been hospitalized after exposure to the local flora. By the 2nd month, however, something unexpected began to occur. The humans started adapting. Dr. Kim's team had not only cataloged the toxic plant life, but had begun cultivating modified versions for food production. The compounds that had poisoned other species were being processed into medicines by the human biochemists. They had discovered that certain native organisms could be domesticated, turning potential predators into useful livestock. Colonel Brooks' security forces had mapped the planet's most dangerous regions and established supply routes through areas that had previously been considered impassable. They had built settlements into the cliffsides to withstand the seismic activity, using the planet's own geological instability as a natural defense mechanism. By month 3, the human colony was not merely surviving, it was thriving. Captain Martinez sent regular updates to the Council, each more unsettling than the last. The humans had established mining operations in areas where the previous colonists had been unable to even land. They had tamed the atmospheric storms by building wind farms that converted the devastating weather patterns into usable energy. Most disturbing of all, they had begun exploring the deep cavern systems that had swallowed entire Vextari expedition teams. "This is impossible," Veltaran declared during an emergency council session. "The planet's classification remains unchanged. It is a Class 0 Deathworld. Nothing should be able to survive there long term." The Council's military advisor, General Krex, leaned forward with obvious concern. "Perhaps we underestimated human resilience. Our species databases indicate they evolved on a world with considerable environmental challenges." "All species face environmental challenges," Veltaran snapped. "That does not explain this level of adaptation." By month 6, the human colony had not only established a sustainable population, but had begun expanding across multiple continents. They had created transportation networks through the planet's most treacherous terrain, established communication, arrays that functioned despite the electromagnetic interference, and somehow managed to develop trade relationships with the native fauna. The Council received reports of human children being born on the planet, healthy and apparently unaffected. by the environmental conditions that had proven lethal to other species. The second generation of Terra 7 colonists were already showing signs of enhanced physical development. Adapted to the high gravity and atmospheric composition, Dr. Kim's agricultural programs had transformed vast stretches of barren landscape into productive farming communities. The humans had learned to predict and utilize the planet's seismic activity, timing their construction and harvesting cycles to work with the natural rhythms of the world, rather than against them. Colonel Brooks had established a planetary defense network that turned the world's natural hazards into strategic advantages. The same storms that had destroyed previous settlements now served as early warning systems and natural barriers against potential threats. By the end of the first year, Terra 7 had become one of the most successful human colonies in the galaxy. The population had grown from the original 1,000 colonists to over 5,000, with more transport ships arriving monthly. The planet's classification remained Class 0, but the humans had somehow transformed it into a thriving world. Captain Martinez's final report to the Council was brief and matter-of-fact. Terra 7 colony established successfully. Population growing steadily. Industrial and agricultural sectors exceeding projections. Request permission to begin expansion to neighboring systems. Velteron stared at the report in stunned silence. The humans had not merely survived the Deathworld. They had conquered it completely. They had taken a planet that had defeated 3 separate galactic civilizations and turned it into a garden world within a single year. The Council's plan had backfired spectacularly. Instead of eliminating the human threat through impossible odds, they had inadvertently provided humanity with the perfect training ground for expansion into the galaxy's most hostile environments. As news of Terra 7's success spread throughout the galaxy, other human colonies began requesting assignment to Class 0 worlds. The Deathworlds that had served as natural barriers to galactic expansion were suddenly becoming stepping stones for human civilization. Velteron realized too late that the Council had made a critical error in judgment. They had assumed that, because something was impossible for them, it would be impossible for everyone else. They had been completely unprepared for humanity's response to the impossible to make it possible.